me some music. Water Tribe? Hmm. Let's see how bad this can be. I've been wanting to talk about Superman 1 million for a little bit now. Now, all my research is based off of this one own. I got this out of a dollar bin. I'm assuming this is part 4. And the reason 1 million has came to my attention. Hold on, let me close my window. Of course, darn sluts. Okay, but the reason this is even came to my attention is because a recent video of Comic Explains, he's looking at he's really into Absolute Superman and the actual Superman title right now. And what's interesting is the actual Superman title, which I don't own, is going into time and the future, and the timekeeper being Doomsday. And Superman 1 million, or not, this isn't Superman, this is DC 1 million, but this 1 million series is a look at, or at least it's an adventure involving the future version of the Justice League. The absolute universe is Darkseid setting up an evil universe. Now, I don't really like the Superman story. It's not my favorite. But to give it some credit, if Darkseid is setting this up, that means Darkseid probably had an influence on this suit that Superman's using now. Soul. DC seems to be, with the Superman stuff, pulling a lot of inspiration from the 1 million series. The 1 million series, this adventure tells us the future of Superman. In the recent issue of the recent Superman, we saw that Superman 1 million is a canon event for Superman. It's his future. Soul, his suit, the name of his suit, is the name of the main villain of 1 million, which is a Superman villain. That's why I want to say Superman. The issues start. I gotta talk about this because I think, from what I understand, this is a 7-part event. This is part 4, I believe. There's nothing indicating that except for this 4 here. But I think this is part 4 because this is definitely a climactic issue. I think this is the best issue of the 7 without reading any of the other ones. But I think just reading this issue, I think I got the full story, or we're going to talk about what I understand. This story involves Superman Prime, the strongest Superman, and he's actually currently trying to punch through the time barrier to get to the future or the past, whatever part, doesn't matter. He's trying to get there so he can help with the fight against the Soul Eater, Solaris. Soul, right? And this thing is a huge threat. That's why Superman Prime is punching through the barrier. And even this is his Justice League. They're like, what is going on? What is that? And he's like, that's our Superman. He's trying to punch through the time barrier. And the only reason is he's like, the Justice League can't stand alone against Solaris, Soul. Right? So it seems like both the Superman titles, at least the two big ones right now, are pulling from Superman 1 million, or this 1 million story by Grant Morrison. So I went and read it, and this is Solaris, this giant being, and right now it's currently evaporating all of the superheroes in the future, or a good chunk of them. Death Star. But you see, there's no parts. It's just Death Star. He says, I am Solaris, the perfect engine of stellar annihilation. My strategy has been calculated across centuries. I have come to destroy the sun and the Superman dynasty. This Solaris, it hates Superman, and it's been planning this attack for eons. And now the Justice League of the future, present, and past are coming together to try to stop it. And that's where um Superman Prime is trying to come and help by trying to punch through the barrier, and it's killing him. And what's so interesting, Grant Morrison is setting up so many different things in this series, because how does Superman Prime punch through the barrier and gets through? We see that in this issue, and it's really cool. This is also a big issue for Kyle Rayner. He's gonna have a feat, as Wonder Woman calls it. But we see Vandal Savage teaming up with the Soul Eater and planning, because he said, yeah, you can destroy the sun and Superman, and I'll get the Earth. But this is where we also learn Martian Manhunter and the Starman went back in time to plant their own plan to stop Solaris. And John, they just woke up in this present future battle time where they're fighting Solaris, and they're telling the League, hey, our plan is working. We're here, we're back, and we did have a plan. And then this is where, technically, this is our Superman, not 1998 Superman, the Superman of the JLA comics that's airing at the same time, that's issuing at the same time. But this is the Superman of the future for the future Justice League, which would be our Superman today. And he comes and he's like, we're going to fight with you. We got the whole league here. We're going to stop him. And Solaris, their plan is the Justice League plan, which came up by the Justice League of present day and Batman. They said, hey, we're going to set off an imploding sun inside Solaris, and that's going to blow him up. But we're going to need Kyle, Green Lantern, to contain the explosion of a sun. And Kyle's like, I don't know if I can do that. But meanwhile, Superman Prime is trying to bust through the time barrier to get to Solaris to help with the fight. And he breaks through because he's that strong. But it takes all of his time, because every time he punches, he gets older. And somehow, our man, this robot, which I also have the issue 1 comic for, this guy gets him through the barrier. And now Superman Prime is here in the 853rd century to fight at the final fight against Solaris. Up, and away. That's 2 Supermen coming to fight Solaris. And Green Lantern, Batman, and all of them sets off the plan to implode the sun inside of Solaris. Solaris explodes, and Green Lantern captures it in his makeshift safe. And he's holding the explosion. And it's taken a while. It's exploding, right? And Solaris is like, fuck. I'm exploding. Superman Prime is already dead. I killed him. All right. But because he's saying that, okay, no, he's not saying he killed him. He's saying he's going to, basically, because he shot he shot what he believes is kryptonite, which he planned to detonate as a missile at the sun to destroy the sun. But it's a specific sun, I guess. But or it's just where Superman Prime, Superboy Prime, keeps his Fortress of Solitude. His solar Fortress of Solitude is also in this sun. And so he's like, when I shoot that with this kryptonite missile, it's gonna blow it up. And he's gonna be dead and the Superman dynasty is destroyed. So he's still exploding though. Solaris is exploding, but Kyle is actually holding it, which is kind of impressive. And then this is where Superman Prime comes and he says, Kyle, good job. You're holding the explosion. My force vision barrier will serve to cement your plasma bottle, Green Lantern. So, because he's Superman Prime, Superboy Prime, he's gonna have infinite powers. His force vision can do that, sure. And he's like, once it all solidifies, we'll be okay. So Kyle did a clutch thing, but the rocket is going to blow up the sun. And it's up to our Superman, aka the future Superman, not 1998 Superman, the future Superman of the 853rd century, I guess, is rushing to stop it. It's up to him to stop a kryptonite rocket. Right? And you're like, that's not possible before it blows up the sun. How is that going to work? What's going to happen? But then he's realizing, he's like, wait, it's not what? It hits. And then we get these narrations. These narrations were happening throughout the whole book. But what this narration is, it's a type of like what they call it. They actually do explain it at the beginning. It's called HeadNet. It's called HeadNet Plus. It's an emergency system that they use to spread news like a psychic. Or we saw this in World War III, actually. Barbara Gordon was using it to communicate with the League. It's like biotechnics is telepathy. It's kind of like the same technology, I guess, of boom tube technology. So it allows people to send psychic messages, and the galaxy uses it as an emergency broadcast system in the future. And so back to Absolute Superman for a moment. They kind of merge. Soul's suit is kind of a merging of this HeadNet system and the Soul Laris villain, which is pretty cool. Like, it's all connected to this Million comic. But the quote-unquote kryptonite rocket hits the sun. And the League's looking like there's nothing we can do. What's happening? And then Kyle's like, he didn't stop the rocket? What's happening? Superman Prime's like, he didn't stop the rocket. I don't know what's happening. And then John's like, I know what's happening. This is part of our plan. You thought that was a kryptonite rocket. It wasn't. Solaris thought it was a kryptonite rocket. It wasn't. It was a lost lantern ring. One of the last lantern rings from the future. And so the lantern ring fuses with the sun, fusing with Superman, and Superman lives a lifetime in like moments. And now Solaris, that's him. A giant green energy hand comes out and crushes him. That's the power of Superman 1 million. You can even see his lantern ring. So John's plan was to actually turn their Superman, the Superman of the future, into Superman 1 million. It's incredible. And that's 1999 Superman, or 1998 of this book. That's Superman Prime. And it's just incredible. And all the heroes are basking at Superman 1 million. Oh my gosh. And then the epic log, there's 2 epic logs, which I don't know where this is going to play into the future. It blows my mind. He takes what's left of Solaris, and he even gets a mixie name. They call him the Superman of the 5th dimension. But he took the DNA samples that Kyle used to blow up Solaris, what was left, and he said he turned it inside out through time until it became a woman. And that's how it started. I'm not even sure what that is, but he created his wife. And then Our Man. Yeah, Our Man's super strong. We should read Our Man issue 1. I read it and they explain it, and he's basically a god with time, but he's an android from the future. And then Superman 1 million in the future goes and creates another Krypton, I guess, and he creates a whole world for himself, where he's the king or the god. And Kyle is trying to like come to grasp of what just happened because he just contained an entire sun, and he's like tired. And even like this event here was just like god level. And then they do some setting up for more Justice League content, I believe, because it is Grant Morrison writing this. And what's super interesting is we just read in World War III, Huntress got her league revoked, her leadership revoked, because she was going to kill Prometheus. And in this panel, in this scene, she's asking, why did you even invite me to be part of the league? And he was like, hey, I see you're improving. And then Vandal Savage gets defeated. That's DC 1 million. I believe that's part 4 of 7. I'm going to see if I can find more issues. Very interesting story. Reference it, their soul is in this. Superman 1 million. That this is the future of the DC universe. At least Superman's future.